Hello, my name is Keith, aka LoLByTheNumbers, and welcome to another 2014 League of Legends World Championship video analysis. Well, once again, this is not a shoutcast, it is a video analysis. I will be assuming you have watched the match, already know the outcome, or don't care, as I will be spoiling the game throughout its phases. I'll be looking primarily towards macro level play, looking a lot at team compositions, at win conditions, strategies, how teams pull them off or don't pull them off during the game, and what they should be doing better to further pull these off, like whether they're delaying, they're pushing, allowing the other team to come back, and how they're not or how they are playing their win conditions properly. When there's time in between that, I will talk about individual lane matchups, item choices, and sometimes individual skill play. Having said that, let's go ahead and get into the match. This match is TPA versus TSM. This is their second match of the group stage. And without further ado, let's get into picks and bans. On TPA's side, they end up banning out Nami. I'm not sure why they pick Nami right away. Maybe they're looking to say, hey mate, let's stop Lustboy. Lustboy is known for playing either Nami or Janna. However, banning out the support, you're still leaving open Braum, Thresh, Sona if they wanted to. There's choices here. There's other places TPA could be looking to ban out TSM in, particularly in the mid lane, looking to knock out Orianna, Syndra, plenty of choices there. TSM side, we see standard bans, Alistar, Zillion, and then Lucian because Bebe loves to play Lucian. This is one of the few times we see that TSM does not actually ban Nidalee. It's because they know that TPA doesn't really play it. TPA end up first picking Maokai, one of the standard trifecta of top lane. Good all-around pick, and TSM respawned by picking up Lee Sin. So this was TPA's choice. They decided to give Amazing Lee Sin in terms of taking and then denying Maokai from Dyrus. With Rumble out of the picture, Dyrus is only left with Ryze, who doesn't often play, and we'll see what he ends up picking up. TSM end up grabbing Tristana as their second pick, and TPA instantly respond with Thresh Yasuo. This is very strong. They now have 2 knockups. While they don't have the Lee Sin synergy, by taking Yasuo, he has great synergy with Thresh and great synergy with Maokai, and it also denies TSM from being able to pick Yasuo in combination with Lee Sin and with Tristana. With Dyrus' champion pool kind of knocked out by the Maokai pick and by the Rumble, he ends up picking Lulu. Now this really works out because this is TSM moving into their Death Ball composition. We already know who TPA is playing in the mid lane, so TSM do not have to worry about whether or not they're going to get Orianna. As they just go ahead and they pick Braum, and then they pick Lulu. Everything should pretty much be dictated at this point by TPA and TSM teams. With Tristana, Lee Sin, they end up grabbing Braum because Lustboy wants to make sure that he can pick up his support. They already know who TPA has. Dyrus grabs Lulu. Very good against Maokai. It's a winning matchup for Lulu, as well as moving into the Death Ball comp. They leave the mid lane for last because they want to see the jungler and they want to see the ADC. Let's say if TPA had picked up Corki or if they had picked up Kog'Maw, TSM might have been less likely to grab Orianna as their final pick and run the Death Ball composition. However, because it is Twitch, TSM lock in Orianna, and now we get one of TSM's famous Death Ball compositions. It's extremely strong against what TPA has picked. Once again, just like Game 1, TSM have outpicked TPA, and they did so through the pick and ban phase. The first 2 picks of Lee Sin, Tristana kind of facilitated TPA into picking Yasuo. Now when we saw Maokai, Yasuo, Thresh, we know that TPA has to go in for an engaged composition. We know what their mid lane is, we know what their top lane is, and we know who their support is. Everything else doesn't really change a team's playstyle. There's very few ADCs and junglers who end up truly changing game matchups. So TSM are really able to see TPA's whole strategy after their second round of picks. It gives them 3 champions to counterpick, and we do see it. So in this matchup, TSM have crafted, as said before, their Death Ball protect the ADC composition. Lulu, Orianna provide tons of shields and HP. Lee Sin provides another shield and peel. Braum also provides peel and protection. Everything about TSM's team is grouping up as 5 and staying in this just ball of death. If TPA try and engage, which is what their team comp is, they're not going to be able to kill anybody. Even if Maokai gets in, gets a nice 3 or 4 man knockup, maybe even 5 man knockup, Yasuo gets in with his ulti. Lulu will just use her ultimate on Tristana. You got the protection that Orianna will have on herself. Braum then uses his knockup to stop Kha'Zix and Maokai and Yasuo when they come in. There's plenty of protection that's going to stop this engage. Since TPA do not have high burst damage inside of their dive, it's unlikely that they're going to be able to come out with the win when they get this big 5-man dive. One of the other big factors in this matchup is that they're running a lot of single target damage. Their AoE is really minor. There's no big AoE. They're going to focus on Yasuo getting in with his ultimate and then focusing a target down. Kha'Zix getting in with the resets on the single target. But this doesn't work very well against Protect, the ADC, or Death Ball compositions. You have like 1200, 1300 extra shields and HP you can toss onto somebody. It really prevents that focused assassination. The problem with Twitch 2 in this is Braum is really strong against Twitch. He throws up his Unbreakable, stops Rat-a-tat-tat, really denies Twitch what he's supposed to do against the Death Ball comp. I would have loved, instead of the Twitch, to see Corki or Kog'Maw. TPA could have at least then picked up something to deal with this roaming ball of death. Corki provides a lot of AoE. His rockets would have been great against this. There's no heal on TSM's team, so it would have allowed him to at least whittle down and get some really good damage out with phosphorus bombs and his ultimate rockets. Kog'Maw would have also been another decent choice. Not nearly as much AoE, but he does have the long range poke. It would allow TPA to kind of sit back and siege, which is what you have to do against these Death Ball comps. TSM have no form of engagement. Braum kind of has one, but it's very easy for TPA to just disengage from that. If TPA had picked up Kog'Maw or Corgi in their last rotation, it would have allowed them to have some poke potential and some delay, whereas TSM have none. It would have given TPA an advantage instead of being at a complete disadvantage in this matchup. On TPA's side, we see a bit of a Yasuo and Engage composition. They do have 5v5 fight potential, except for the fact that they can't fight TSM's Death Ball. This means they're going to have to look for skirmishes, and a big part of this is going to rely around Yasuo and around Twitch. Once level 6 comes into play, Thresh should probably look to go against Orianna, make a sneaky attack middle, or have Maokai TP into a ward and go onto Orianna. Get that combination with Yasuo, especially since Orianna is not running any defensive summoners. This would be the best bet for TPA to start generating the lead that they need. Since they can't fight TSM in a 5v5 situation, if they can get Yasuo ahead, Yasuo can go ahead and split push to his heart's content and split up TSM, which is what TPA have to do. It's also what TPA is going to look to do is look for 2v2 and 3v3 skirmishes in the jungle. Use Twitch with his stealth to go look for assassination plays at buffs. Maokai Yasuo should always be looking to put pressure on the red buff, if not also looking towards the blue buff. They have great opportunity and strength in these small skirmishes, and they should win them. It's when they reach those big 5v5 fights that TPA is going to get in trouble. So TPA's win condition is come out ahead in the laning phase. Make sure you don't come out behind. If possible, get ahead. And everybody wants to do that, but it's really going to be essential for TPA to be ahead. Without a significant gold advantage, they're never going to be able to win the 5v5 fight. But if they can get a gold advantage on Yasuo alone, then Yasuo can carry the team by split pushing, forcing TSM to split up, and then allowing the rest of the team to kind of hold off TSM's 4-man squad and look for picks and rotational errors. That's going to be a big thing, is TPA needs to look for rotational errors in the mid and late game from TSM and force them by running the 1-4. Take control of one of the jungles, be it top or bottom, depending on where Yasuo is pushing, and look for the opportunities for Thresh and Twitch to make plays. Outside of that, they really don't have much to do. If they try and go for dragon objectives, they're at a disadvantage because of their weaker team fight. If they try and push turrets, TSM's going to group up and TPA aren't going to be able to win a 5v5 fight. So once again, they really need to look for hit level 6 and look for those skirmishes. Avoid full-on team fights. Try and use the power of Maokai Yasuo to its fullest extent in the mid game. Having said that, I would have loved to have seen TPA perform a lane swap. Both their top and bottom lane are going into inferior matches, and it's really going to show later on. Well, it's easier for Lulu to get CS and survive, or, well, not necessarily survive, but get CS and experience in a 2v1 lane. Maokai is also safer under a turret. This would have allowed Twitch to have an easier time farming. He could have got the 2v1. This means Thresh is now able to roam. Thresh has better pick potential than Braum. More playmaking abilities that he could have made in middle against Orianna, that he could have made in the jungle against Lee Sin. There's just more opportunities if TPA had lane swapped. You would gotten Twitch to level 6 faster so he could perform his assassinations. And while Maokai would have come out worse for wear in the lane swap than Lulu would, Maokai only needs to gank middle to be effective, or pressure objectives. Getting into the enemy team with his ultimate on and the knockup is all Maokai needs to do. That way he can support Yasuo. In this lane, last time we saw Bergerson actually playing Yasuo. If you watched one of the previous matchups, I think it was against Starhorn Royal Club, and he decimated on Yasuo. And in this matchup, we see the reverse, where he's on Orianna and the enemy opponent is on Yasuo. And in this matchup, TSM's mid laner decimates as well. He respects Yasuo in the early levels, letting himself get denied some CS and backing up into the turret. Once at the turret, he's safe to farm. He knows he's not out to win this matchup on individual basis, but rather his strength is going to be in the team fights. We do see him outplaying Yasuo. He's smart about the dashes. He knows his ball movement. He's staying close. He doesn't end up dying early. And we actually see him taking the aggression on the first shockwave. Yasuo does come back, and he is able to put some pressure onto Orianna. Orianna is still staying safe close enough to her tower so that Yasuo cannot go in for the kills. Now that Orianna gets her blue buff, it becomes safer for her. She has more pressure she can put onto Yasuo. Everything just gets better for her with this blue buff. I still don't like that she's picking up Chalice. I prefer other build paths, triple Dorans, Seeker's Arm Guard, plus Tear of the Goddess, Haunting Guys, something that gives her some protection against Yasuo and still allows her to have her mana. However, Bergerson is going into the Athenes and Holy Grail, and it does end up working out for him. Could have been better in my opinion, but that's just me. On the bot lane, we do see that TPA's lane is the one getting bullied, getting pushed back. They're the ones who are in trouble, and this is to be expected. However, Twitch is keeping up in CS. He's doing well, much better than I feel he should be doing. This dragon by TSM is very dangerous. They really shouldn't have gone for it. Orianna's zoned out. Yasuo's dead. Yasuo has combinations with Thresh, and we see it here. The only reason this goes somewhat even for TSM is because Amazing is able to get that kill on Twitch. Excuse me. And there is absolutely no reason for Twitch to be there. He was low. He walked into Lee Sin's Q. He could have flashed it. He could have healed. He could have done something. This would have prevented him from getting first blooded, allowed TPA to get the first blood, and get the only kill and get out. Instead, TSM come out only 150 gold behind. No, that's not right. They only come out 50 gold behind from that trade. Having gotten the first blood, they get 400. TPA get 300 plus 150 for the assist. So, well played by Lee Sin to cover that up. And here we see a low HP Yasuo is going into Orianna. He's not respecting the fastball movements. This is what Oriannas need to do against melee mid laners, is keep the ball very close, and that way you have the quick attacks, the quick protects, the quick dissonances. It's very imperative that there's no delay in your ability to trade and harass. Bergerson knows how to play this matchup, which is very apparent. This actually becomes a big problem for TPA. Yasuo is the one they need to get fed, and if he's losing one-on-one to Orianna, it's not going to be good for TPA. Yasuo is going to be their strongest damage point in the mid game. He's also going to be the one who has the most success for drawing TSM apart by the split push. If he gets shut down and is able to be stopped by Lulu or Orianna, or even Tristana, then he's pretty much useless in this game. So going into some individual lane matchups, why top is bad, or at the disadvantage. Lulu has a big ability to bully Maokai. She can provide superior DPS in the laning phase. She doesn't need to use her spells to harass Maokai, so it's harder for him to sustain up with his passive. In fact, if she really wants to, she can watch and count his spells so that she only uses her spells against him when his passive is up and before he's able to proc it. Her auto attack harass is enough, especially with picks, and there's not much Maokai can do. If Maokai tries to go in, Lulu can polymorph him, shield herself, walk away, get the slow, chase, and then chase Maokai afterwards. The advantage is really in her ball court. I will point out something about Maokai's build because I feel this is important, and it's really, I don't understand what he's doing. Maokai starts the lane with Flask. He's trying to survive through Lulu harassment, but then he ends up picking up Double Doran's Blade, Double Doran's Ring as well. To me, this doesn't make any sense. He's spending 800 gold when he could be buying two components, the Mana Crystal and the Health Crystal for his Catalyst, and getting into that Rod of Ages earlier. He really needs to start that scaling and get into that mid-game power point and early. By delaying himself, he delays his entire team's ability. If he really wanted to grab a triple Doran's, I don't think he should have built double Doran's rings. He should have started the laning phase with a Doran's shield, or with just one Doran's ring, or even just bought one of these, one Doran's ring or one Doran's shield. The reason I say Doran's shield is because its passive blocks every hit from picks as well. It's a great deterrent to the damage that Lulu is able to do in lane. Unfortunately, we see him spend a good 1125 gold, I believe it is, on items that he doesn't need to. He's essentially wasting 800 gold. In the bot lane matchup, the reason Tristana Braum is stronger is because neither Tristana nor Twitch is a lane bully. whereas it's a little bit harder for Thresh to hit his skills. He needs to hit Tristana, and even if he is able to hook Tristana, Braum can go in front with the Unbreakable and block Twitch's damage. He's very good at protecting Tristana. Whereas if he is able to get his passive onto Twitch, Tristana can get the distance necessary using her leap to be able to proc the passive stun. I just feel there's more opportunity for plays on TSM's side and more opportunities for bully potential, as well as the faster push into the turret for TSM. And here up top we see Lulu once again beating out Maokai. Luckily for TPA, Kha'Zix comes in to save him, otherwise Dyrus could have killed him. But we see how well Lulu can push against Maokai. She's got about a 25 CS advantage. She's taking the top turret. Everything is in favor of Lulu up top against Maokai. Just strong push potential, strong bully ability. And then with Lee Sin coming bottom, we see that TSM is taking 2 turrets. They're really getting gold onto their team and facilitating it well. Another reason why I think Tristana Braum is better than Twitch Thresh is that at level 6 there's more damage potential on TSM's side. And even if Twitch uses his stealth to get into a position to rat-a-tat-tat and try and assassinate Tristana, Braum can dash to Tristana, throw up a shield, block rat-a-tat-tat. Really prevents what Twitch wants to do with his ultimate. He gets the stun, you get the double CC of the passive stun, the knock-up. Braum is really able to put the hurt onto Twitch and take the CC harassment from Thresh. One of the things that Twitch and Thresh could do is look to actually send their damage onto Braum instead of Tristana. If Thresh gets a hook onto Braum, Twitch can throw his cask, get 1 or 2 shots, and back off. Do not engage. Just get some small true damage from the passive, damage from Expunge as well. Prevent Braum from being able to be that wall by whittling him down. So as we move into the mid game, we see that TSM has got the gold advantage primarily. This is due to CS numbers from top and bottom, as well as the 2 turrets. Lulu is really putting the hurt onto Maokai right now. She's already got an easily large rod. She has Earthine's Unholy Grail. She can constantly be pushing against this Maokai much faster than he can push back. He needs to get into melee range of the creep so he can get his knock-up, and this makes him vulnerable to Lulu. Whereas Lulu can kill the creep wave in 2 Qs or 1 Q in auto attacks. She really has a much bigger advantage in the push potential. With Dragon coming up, TSM have Lulu pushing real hard because they know if TPA sends someone up to deal with her, that's a free Dragon for TSM. TPA have no choice but to sit here and play against TPA and let Lulu do her thing. The other thing that this does is it keeps Maokai away from TSM's team, which is their primary engage tool. Without the primary engage tool, TSM are easily able to bully down the mid tower, and now they're able to go look towards Dragon with Lulu being in range. Once again, as Maokai, you really want to be there with your team in the front line so that you're able to make the engagements. TPing in late to a fight means you lose. And here's TSM's great play. Maokai TP's in behind. TSM say screw this. They just run straight at the bottom half of TPA's team. And this is what you need to do in these situations. TPA are trying to get a flank. They're trying to get a pincer. But the teleport takes time, and TSM are in position to just chase down one half of TPA's team. This ends up with TSM getting 2 kills as well as the Dragon. Goes highly in their favor. And this really speaks to why TPA shouldn't be going for these 5v5 fights. They don't have the advantage in them. TSM have a very good protection composition going. And unless TPA can split them up, they're not going to win the 5v5 fights. TPA should have let that one go, let Maokai get the top turret, pushed middle hard with Yasuo and Twitch, tried to trade Dragon for 2 turrets. Here again we see TPA trying to make plays, but they're going into the protection combo and it's just not working out for them. Yasuo gets his ultimate, the target he ults, gets Lulu ultimate, gets shields, everything. There's no good ability for TPA to fight this, and they just got out team comped. Now that TSM is ahead, it's even harder for TPA to do anything to them. With the lead, it means they can't split push properly. They going to have a rough time in the small 2v2 and 3v3 skirmishes, and it makes them super weak in the 5v5 fights. What TPA should do right now is they should really send Yasuo off to split push. Send him bottom, let him do his thing. He has to get his items to be relevant, get to the point where he can split push without worry. TSM would be able to respond by sending Lulu down. I think Lulu should be able to beat out Yasuo at this point. She's got her death cap and her Athene's Unholy Grail. Yasuo is built very defensively, which is something he shouldn't do. He's not a tank. He has to have the damage. Going in with these defensive stats, he's just not going to do much. So essentially, the game is already over. TSM have out-team comped TPA. They've outplayed them, and they've drawn TPA into the 5v5 fights. Rather than playing their composition properly, looking for neutral jungle objectives, trading turrets for Dragon, and avoiding the 5v5 fights, TPA looked to join the 5v5 fights, and they lost because their comp is inferior in those 5v5 fights. It is extremely difficult for these low damage engage compositions to do anything against Deathball protect the ADC comps. There's just too much extra HP given by shields and by Lulu ult, too much peel provided by Braum and Lee Sin. So at this point, to win, all TSM need to do is rotate around the map as 4 or 5. Lulu has her TP, so she can be where she wants, and by drawing Maokai away, they prevent a good portion of TPA's engage, allowing their team, their 4-man team, to almost fight better without Lulu. TPA do try and make a play here, as you just saw, and it's what they needed to do. They have to try. If they don't try, they're going to lose this game. So you try some really good play, and if it works out, high risk, high reward, you get closer back into the game. If it doesn't work out, you just end up making the game go by faster. It's preferable to a slow, methodical death. Thresh gets a nice hook, gets a nice flay, Yasuo goes in, but there's just not, he doesn't have enough damage. The shields from Orianna, Lee Sin, and the disengage from Braum are more than enough to stop TPA. Braum's Unbreakable prevents Twitch from providing the damage he needs. It's good picks by TSM are shutting down TPA. With the 10,000 gold disadvantage, TPA have essentially lost. Even if they try and go for a Baron play, it's not that much that can be done. They do get a good pick onto Dyrus, and that's one thing that TPA need to do. When we see they're not holding back, they're not sitting back and farming, they're actually actively looking for playmaking. The only problem is one kill is not enough. They need to do that 5 or 6 times. At Baron, if TSM try and Baron, TPA can attempt to stop them, but there's not enough AoE, and especially not enough magic AoE, which is where Baron really excels. He puts that MR debuff and allows teams to come back that way. Instead, we see TSM sticking as these 5 groups. Even here, they're only playing as a 3-man group, but they get the jump onto TPA. Lulu's here for the teleport. She's watching the fight, and TSM are just too far ahead. They've got this great death ball composition that TPA's engage composition can't fight against. What TPA could have done to win is, once they really should have dropped out Twitch, picked up Corki or Kog'Maw, done something to allow them to poke and siege. They do have Kha'Zix as well, so Corki Kha'Zix could have done decent damage while holding TSM at bay earlier on. That way TPA doesn't fall so far behind. Transition Yasuo into a split push style earlier on. Let him sort of be his own man in this entire game. Leave him on an island while Corki and Kha'Zix defend and poke TSM's team. TPA really needed Yasuo to get to the point where he could 1v1 anyone, but he just wasn't able to get there, partially because of him getting outplayed by Orianna, also partially because Lulu was so far ahead of Maokai that even Lulu could have beat out Yasuo in the 1v1. And that's really the story of this game. TSM out-compositioned TPA and out-compositioned them really hard. And then in the game, TPA didn't do anything to throw curveballs. And I've said that before in other games. Not sure what curveballs could have been thrown this one. I still think TPA should have gone for the 2v1, let Thresh roam a bit more, rely on Maokai just to support Yasuo once Yasuo hits level 6, even if Maokai is kind of denied in CS and experience. Lulu will roughly have the same problem. That would have been my choice for TPA, avoiding the bad bottom lane matchup and avoiding the bad top lane matchup. But once again, TPA they did craft a superb composition, and once again it was against TPA, and they played it properly. They transitioned into the 5-man squad pretty early. Once the outer turrets were down, they just moved into 5 and ran like that. And that's the name of this game. Deathball composition is extremely strong. Going into the rest of the world's matches, other teams will realize this and they'll start banning out Orianna, which is very key to this composition. And that's all. I hope you have enjoyed listening and that you've taken away some insight from this match. The biggest things to take away is that engagement comps do not work against these deathball comps. With engagement comps, you kind of want to sow chaos by getting into the back line, separating the front line. But with deathball comps, the entire team composition just sits in one spot. So you dive in, they're all there to fight you. And that's what happened. The best counters to these deathball compositions are not necessarily poke comps, I'd say more siege comps. Ones that have AoE damage, AoE poke. Jace is really good against this, Ziggs, Xerath, Corki, Kog'Maw to a lesser extent. Not really Nidalee. You need more than just the one target hit. You need to get the AoE damage out to make sure that the shields are not as effective as possible. And that's it. Thanks for listening. The notes for this match can be found in the notes below this video, as well as a link to my portal page for all of my 2014 League of Legends World Championships notes and video analysis. Once again, I am Keith, aka LoLByTheNumbers, and thank you for watching.